In January 1996, Charles O'Rear, yes, that's his name, was driving from his home in Napa Valley, California to visit his girlfriend in the city. That would be San Francisco. It was something he did every Friday afternoon, but this time he ended up taking one of the most viewed images in history. Charles worked as a National Geographic photographer for 25 years. At that time, he was collecting materials for a book. That's probably why he couldn't just pass by those curvy roads, ripe grapes, and lush fields of green. It only took 4 frames, and he used a film camera. He named the photo Bucolic Green Hills and submitted it to Westlight, a stock photo company. A couple of years later, Microsoft found and loved the photo so much that they picked it to be the wallpaper for their new operating system, Windows XP. They wanted to have all the rights to the photo, so they offered O'Rear some pretty crazy money. He still can't name the exact amount under his confidentiality agreement, but says it was the second largest payment ever made to a photographer for a single image. Couriers and delivery services refused to take the film with the photo once they knew how much it was worth. So Microsoft bought Charles a ticket to Seattle, and he personally delivered the original film to their office. They officially renamed it Bliss, and the rest is history. Some people are skeptical about the image as it seems too green and vibrant compared to what you see in real life. Many people journeyed to the spot but didn't see exactly the same landscape. The photographer explained it as a film effect and not the use of Photoshop or any other editors. If you want to see it for yourself, you gotta get on Highway 12 from Napa to Sonoma. It should be around a mile past Domaine Carneros, a winery and chateau. Since the road is really busy, it's smart to park in town and then hike to the location. And yes, the best time to visit is when Charles did it. January rains make the fields the brightest. The most famous lunch break in history was documented in 1932. 11 workers are enjoying their meal over the crossbeam at 850 feet above New York City. The picture has become so popular that several people claimed it to be their work. It was staged as part of a promotional campaign for the skyscraper complex, and there was more than one photographer working on site that day. The official version was that it was taken by Charles C. Ebbets. The men in the photo weren't professional models, but real iron workers on the 69th floor. They were finishing the construction of 30 Rockefeller Center in Manhattan, and not the Empire State Building, as many people think. The photo, taken during the Great Depression, became one of the symbols of the city and also American resilience. The construction project employed around 250,000 people. It was well paid for that time, but super risky. The photo has inspired many other similar ones, with iron workers balancing and relaxing at scary heights. Oops, count me out. Hundreds of people visit Abbey Road in London every day to create this iconic photo of the Beatles taken in August of 1969. The idea for the photo belonged to Paul McCartney, who even drew a sketch for it. The author of the original image was a Scottish photographer, Ian McMillan, and he only had 10 minutes to take the shot. He had to climb a ladder in the middle of the street with blocked traffic. The Beatles had to cross the street 6 times to get the perfectly aligned legs. They weren't on the best of terms with each other at the time and split up completely just a few weeks later. The photo became the cover for their final album called Abbey Road. The photographer remained pretty modest about it and didn't even think it was his best shot. Many talented photographers were invited to Albert Einstein's 72nd birthday celebration. Only one of them, Arthur Sass, managed to capture the fun side of the Nobel Prize-winning scientist, an image that many call Einstein's Tongue. Einstein himself loved the photo so much that he even asked United Press International to give him 9 copies of the image for his personal use. Neil Armstrong was not only the first human to walk on the moon, but also the first human to do it with a camera. That's why the famous man on the moon we see in photos is the second crew member, Buzz Aldrin. Armstrong was ahead of him by a matter of inches and minutes, but Aldrin went down in history in photos, climbing down the ladder of the lunar module and saluting the American flag. His arm was bent in a weird position because he was probably looking at the checklist on his wrist. You can spot Armstrong, the lunar module, and Aldrin's shadow in the reflection in the visor. The camera they used on the moon, a Hasselblad, was adapted for the space mission and had no viewfinder. The astronauts carried it on the chest and pressed the shutter release, guessing what would be in the picture. Before the mission, the four of them had to take cameras home to practice. They had to leave the camera on the moon to reduce the weight for landing. The only items they brought back were the films with undeveloped images and around 50 pounds of lunar rock. Another famous space photo, the Pillars of Creation, was taken by the Hubble Space Telescope. The telescope was sent into space, but turned out to be nearsighted, and it took a couple of years to fix it. Finally, in 1995, it was able to capture the Eagle Nebula, 6,500 light-years from our planet, with the assistance of scientists back on Earth. What you see is actually 32 different images put together. The photo clearly shows large clouds of interstellar dust, each of them 30 trillion miles long. They're called the Pillars of Creation because the gas and dust are in the process of creating new stars. Can you guess for how much the 99-cent photo by Andreas Gursky was sold at an auction? Nope, the answer is not 99 cents, but $2.3 million, making it one of the most expensive contemporary photographs ever. The artist stitched together many small images he took at a 99 cents only store in Los Angeles. The final result looks like an impressionist painting with an enormous sense of scale. Now, back in pre-Photoshop days, you had to get extra creative to produce some unique photos. For example, to capture the non-existent Loch Ness Monster on camera. Marmaduke Wetherell, what a great name, went to Scotland on a mission from London's Daily Mail. He brought back some images of footprints on the shore. Natural History Museum's zoologists quickly established the footprints belonging to a hippo. So it was obvious the photos weren't taken in Scotland and the photographer was lying. Then Wetherell went one step further and took photos of a toy submarine to prove Nessie was real. He even used a cover-up name to sign that famous photo in 1934. It's a shame he spoiled that great name. The oldest surviving photograph was taken in 1826 by an inventor and not an artist. Now, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this guy's name, and you can see why. But he was experimenting with lithography, a method of printing where you reproduce images drawn on stone using oil-based ink. His search for new methods made him set up a device called camera obscura. It captured and projected images lit by the sun. The inventor was practicing on the view outside his studio in France. He used a pewter plate to capture and keep a crude image of the view. You can still spot some buildings on his estate and the countryside around it. Meanwhile, one fine spring day in 1839, a shoe shiner came to his regular workplace in the Boulevard du Temple in Paris. No, really, I don't speak French, can't you tell? Anyway, the shoe shiner couldn't even imagine that, together with one of his customers that day, he'd go down in history as the first human to be photographed. Louis Daguerre fixed his lens in the street and exposed a silver-plated sheet of copper for several minutes, and later developed and fixed the image with chemicals. Other people who accidentally made it into the frame missed their chance to be in the photo because they didn't stay in the same place long enough. The photos by Daguerre, called daguerreotypes, were sharp and permanent but impossible to reproduce or print on paper. He could have just waited around for iPhones to be invented, but that's like about 150 years, so nah. That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.